Hello, my dear friends. Every word in the Torah is like a gold mine. The more you explore and dig beneath the surface, the more precious ore that you're able to find. Such is the case with the word in the beginning of the parasha, V'yichli Truma. God instructed the Jewish people to donate for the building of the Mishkan, various silver coins and precious materials, of chesed and the gold, silver, and copper, and oros elim, precious hides, and various materials. So the question is, the Chumash, in expressing that, God said, "V'yichli truma," they should take from me truma. So the question is, why does it say "V'yichli truma"? What do you mean they take from me truma? When you make a donation, you don't take, you're not taking, you're giving. So why does the Torah say "V'yichli truma"? So there's many answers, but the one that resonates the most for me is that of the Alshach HaKadosh, the great Kabbalist who lived in Tzfas in the 1500s. He was close to the Arizal, buried in the Arizal, the same cemetery as the Arizal. The Alshach said in the Beis Halevi says, expresses the same idea, is that people think when they're giving, they lose. If I have $10,000 and I buy Israeli bonds for $1,000, so now I'm $1,000 poor. Or if I donate $1,000 to a yeshiva or for a tzedakah or to help people, a chesed, a gemach, whatever it is, I'm $1,000 poorer than before. Not true. You're $1,000 wealthier, and you're more wealthy than the value of the $1,000 because you took something temporal and made it into something that's eternal. Because the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos that when a person takes leave of this world, ein melav l'adam, person's not escorted. All the wealth that he has, the zav chesed, the gold and the silver, and the avadim tovos margolios, the precious coins, the precious stones and pearls, they don't escort a person. You can't take it with you. What escorts a person? It's the mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. So if a person uses the money to give tzedakah, that's something that till then the person just he happened to have the money in his bank account. But now it becomes his because it's something that forever he's connected to the money that he gave for tzedakah. And it's not only in the world to come, but it's even in this world, because you could use the money to transform, to perform mitzvahs that are here and now. So, for example, the Jews when the Torah says "V'yichli truma," God said, "Take from me truma," they used it to build a Mishkan. And the Mishkan was something that serviced the Jewish people. The Shechina was there. They walked into the Mishkan. They felt everybody has problems. Everybody wants God to answer their prayers. They were able to walk into the Mishkan and feel the presence of the Shechina right there and talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So wasn't it worth far more that by taking some precious materials or whatever they were worth, but they donated it for the building of the Mishkan, now became transformed into Mishkan. That was an unbelievable transformation. They took something of limited value and it was transformed into something of enormous value. And the same is true with all our resources in life. Everybody has resources. We have financial resources. We have time as a resource. It's our most precious commodity. We have strengths. We have talents. We have strength. We're able to use these in positive ways to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu or to serve our fellow man. And when the person does so, person maybe talks about it as a sacrifice, but it's not a sacrifice. It's not v'yitnu, it's v'yichlu, because we receive far more than we give than we give away. We're like the alchemists of old. They spent hundreds of years trying to figure out how to change iron into gold. Not one was successful. King Midas was able to do it in Greek mythology, but not in real life. And in Harry Potter, I forgot the name of the alchemist, who was able to do the same thing. But nobody ever succeeded. But we are the ultimate alchemists. We're able to take things, the resources that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. And if a person is sitting on Steve Jobs, he has $354 billion. I don't know. Maybe he gives a lot of tzedakah. I'm not knocking Steve Jobs, but imagine all that money if he would use it for tzedakah. It would be of such enormous value. And after every millionaire, if they left the money in the bank, when they die, So what did they have from the money? Nothing. The money sat there. So what if they had all the money? Beis Halevi says, he gives a mashal, he says it's like if you have a fly in a room with a huge sugar, with a ton of sugar, and the fly flies around, but he's locked in the room, and he licks on some of the sugar here and there. And then the fly died. What did the fly have? He had the sugar. The sugar was there. He happened to be next to the sugar. A person can have a fortune of money in their bank account, but the person doesn't have it. It's only, he thinks he has it. He thinks it's his. He thinks it's mine. He thinks he could use it. But if he doesn't utilize it, what value of it is it? Nothing. And that's the message of Yichud, that we could be like alchemists. We could take things that are of limited value and transform them into something that's precious beyond belief. I want to share with you a thought that I had this week. A friend of mine told me that the day when the Bibas family was buried, Shiri and her two young children, Ariel and Kfir, the beautiful, wonderful children with the angelic faces, when they were buried, it was like Tisha B'Av in Eretz Yisrael. He said it was the most depressing day in the last year and a half, since October 7th. Lining the streets, you probably saw the pictures, with thousands of people in Rishon LeZion who were lining where they were buried, with orange balloons, because that was the color of the children's hair. And the whole country, not only the people in Rishon LeZion, but the whole country was in a state of mourning. It was like Tisha B'Av. So on the one hand, that which has transpired in the last year and a half, we don't know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed it to take place. We don't know why he allowed Hamas to wreak havoc on the state of Israel and on the people. But at the same time, there's been enormous sacrifice that the Jewish people have had to make. Sacrifice of human life, and sacrifice people who were served in the army and they lost their lives, or they were wounded and they're still suffering, and sacrifices of families who lost their dear ones, and the Jewish people have risen to the occasion to from around the world, donating tremendous resources, financial resources, and sending materials to Israel, and toys for the children, and participating in missions, and davening. Every day we daven for the soldiers. So we've all sacrificed. But that sacrifice that we've all made has elevated the Jewish people to an unbelievably higher level, higher than who knows the Jewish land. The last time Klal Yisrael was at such a level. We have the achdus, the sense of compassion, like they felt on this week in Rishon LeZion. But that's been the whole time that the hostage situation has been going on. So much compassion, so much being nosei b'olam chavero, so much of carrying the burden of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. All that is a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice that has elevated us to unbelievably high levels. And that's the yichro, that when a person sacrifices, it oftentimes the sacrifice is painful and it's difficult. But it's not v'yitnu. It's not. I don't lose. It's something. I grow. I become a better person, and it's the sacrifice that I make is transformed into yichud. It's what I take that will be mine forever. There was when Apple was started in, I think it was in 1976. There were three partners: Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and a fellow by the name of Ronald Wayne. You probably never heard of Ronald Wayne. Ronald Wayne owned 10% of the company. It was worth at the time $800. He after a few weeks he decided to sell it back to the other partners. So he for $800 he sold his stocks in Apple. If he had held on to those stocks, how much would they be worth today? Over $100 billion. He could have been one of the wealthiest people in the world. But he didn't, he under-evaluated it. He had no idea how much it was worth. And that's the same in life. We have so many opportunities. We have to use our resources, whether they're financial resources or our energy or our strength, to work for Jewish institutions, or to spend time studying Torah. We have all these tremendous resources, and we're dormant alchemists. We could transform all these things into gold and silver and to precious commodities. But we don't appreciate how much they're worth. That's one of the great tragedies of life. We don't appreciate what we have while we have them. And just like Ronald Wayne, he lost $100 billion in a flash. That's how, unfortunately, we lose so much in life. There was a woman in Ohio in the early 1900s who purchased baseball cards, and she used them as bookmarks. When she was reading a book, she would put in a baseball card. As she got older, she put the baseball cards in the shoebox. It sat in an attic someplace for over 100 years, and then I guess the great grandchildren discovered it. Those cards were worth a fortune. For example, there was a card of Ty Cobb, who was one of the great baseball players of that time. It sold for $2.8 million. Look how much it was worth. She had absolutely no clue, and it's such a terrific muscle of how we have things like baseball cards that are worth a fortune. And I had the exact same experience. Do you know that I could have been a millionaire? It's incredible. Why? Because when I was a young boy, I collected baseball cards. I loved baseball cards. I had probably over 1,000 baseball cards, and I traded them, and I knew every single card by heart, and I knew all the stats and everything. And then when I got a little bit older, I lost interest. I put them in a box. And when then my parents, Alei Mishal, moved to Israel, they didn't have room for my baseball cards. So it was being stored in their basement, so they threw it away. Do you know how bad I feel now when I look back? I could have been those baseball cards. I'm sure there were baseball cards that were worth a fortune. And it was not only baseball cards, it was also comic books that I collected when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I loved Superman comics, and I had a whole library of comic books. And in 1960, I believe, there was a new comic that came out. It was called the Justice League of America. And I bought 3 copies. I was so excited. It was the first of the Superman Heroes. It was the first comic in that series. And I went out to the local drugstore. I bought 3 copies. If I had held on to them, who knows how rich I would be? Maybe I would have been a multimillionaire. Maybe it would be worth today $100 million. Who knows? But I threw them away. I left them behind them in my parents' basement, and they got discarded together with the baseball cards. So we all have resources that are so valuable, but we don't realize how valuable they are. And we instead of parting with those resources and utilizing them, if we have millions of dollars in the bank and a person goes through life and the person doesn't utilize those resources to accomplish terrific things, then a person loses out an opportunity of being like an alchemist and transforming something of limited value into something that's eternally valued for forever and ever. And just like this fellow Ronald Wayne, he unknowingly walked away from a fortune. So we unknowingly, we don't realize it, we don't appreciate it. What a tragedy that we have an opportunity to transform our material strength and resources and assets into something spiritual that will be eternally ours, and it will be worth far more than the material item that we're giving away. We could experience the yichlu. And when we think we're losing, we're not losing. It's v'yichlu. It's not v'yitnu. And that's something that I think should inspire us to remember that you never lose by giving away. The more you give away, the wealthier person you become. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful Shabbos.